Sure, your new iPhone came with a hefty price tag, but what if the true cost goes far beyond what you paid at checkout? What if we told you the iPhone in your hand was stained with blood, tinted with suffering, and built on a foundation of exploitation? Well, today we dive into the sordid journey your iPhone took to reach your pocket.
Thousands of unregulated, unmonitored mines in the DRC. It's crawling with children, working like modern-day slaves.
The president of the Democratic Republic of Congo has lashed out at Apple, the tech giant, for using so-called blood minerals from his country for the manufacturing of Apple products.
We begin in the Democratic Republic of Congo, an impoverished nation sitting on $24 trillion in untapped mineral resources. Here, claims are made that minerals powering Apple's devices are being illegally exported from war-torn regions, funding armed groups and exploiting some of the poorest people on the planet. Apple, a company that has built its brand on innovation and sustainability, now finds itself in the crosshairs of the government of this benighted country. The Congo government has accused the tech giant of using minerals illegally exported from the country's war-torn eastern region, challenging Apple's long-standing claims of responsible sourcing. In a letter sent to Apple CEO Tim Cook, the DRC's lawyers argue that iPhones, Mac computers, and other Apple products are tainted by the blood of the Congolese people. The minerals in question, tin, tungsten, and tantalum, critical components in modern electronics, are believed to be mined under the control of armed groups in conflict zones, despite Apple's assurances that its supply chain is conflict-free. The accusations spotlight the darker realities behind the electronics industry, as the DRC struggles to curb the illegal trade of these so-called 3T minerals. With the region plagued by violent conflict involving the M23 rebel group and accusations of neighboring Rwanda's involvement, the supply chains that feed Apple's products appear more complicated than ever. These 3T minerals are critical to consumer electronics. Tin is used to solder components, tantalum stores energy in capacitors, tungsten helps phones vibrate, and gold ensures reliable connections in circuit boards. Although international organizations and tech companies have ramped up efforts to clean up mineral supply chains, it's still difficult to ensure these resources are free from conflict. Artisanal and small-scale mining dominates much of the DRC's mining sector, involving hundreds of thousands of people working in dangerous conditions, often without proper oversight. Armed groups in eastern DRC, where violence continues to rage between ethnic militias, control key mining routes and even take over some mining operations entirely. In many cases, miners are forced to pay taxes to these groups just to access the mines, with many forced into labor or used as pawns in the illegal mining trade. Efforts like the U.S Dodd-Frank Act, passed in 2010, require companies to disclose the origins of conflict minerals, and corporations like Apple, Tesla, and Microsoft are members of the Responsible Minerals Initiative, which works to trace and verify supply chains. However, the process is far from foolproof. Corruption at mine sites, where government agents tasked with regulating production are often bribed, means that minerals from conflict zones can still make their way into global markets. While companies report progress, the chaotic environment in the DRC and surrounding countries makes it nearly impossible to guarantee that these minerals are entirely conflict-free. The misery your iPhone has caused doesn't end there, however. After the raw materials like tin, tantalum, tungsten, and gold are mined in the dangerous conditions of the DRC, they don't just vanish into the supply chain, they head to massive factories in China. One of the most infamous of these is Foxconn, a sprawling complex that produces millions of Apple products, including iPhones. American journalist Brian Merchant visited the Foxconn Longhua plant for his book The One Device: The Secret History of the iPhone. Located just outside Shenzhen, the factory is a city unto itself, housing hundreds of thousands of workers. While Apple touts the precision and scale of its manufacturing process, Foxconn's reputation is built on something far darker. Grueling work conditions, mental health crises, and a string of worker suicides that have plagued the facility over the years. At its peak, Foxconn's Longhua plant employed over 450,000 workers, many of whom endured 12-hour shifts assembling iPhones at unrelenting pace. Workers have reported handling as many as 1,700 iPhones per day, often with little time for breaks. The pressure to meet quotas, combined with harsh management practices that publicly humiliate workers for mistakes, has contributed to widespread depression and anxiety among employees. In 2010, a wave of suicides brought global attention to the grim reality inside Foxconn's walls. Workers, driven to depression, jumped from the factory's towering dormitories in protest of the intolerable conditions. In response, Foxconn installed suicide nets around its buildings, an eerie symbol of the ongoing mental toll exacted by life on the assembly line. Despite promises of reform and improvements in working conditions, former workers like Xu painted a bleak picture of life inside Foxconn to Merchant. "It's not a good place for human beings," he says, describing the high-pressure environment where exploitation is routine. Workers often face unfair pay deductions, broken promises of overtime bonuses, and punitive measures like public scolding and forced apologies for mistakes. The factory, with its dormitories, cafeterias, and recreational facilities, may seem like a self-contained world, but beneath the surface, it's a place where the human cost of producing one of the most profitable products on the planet becomes painfully clear. While Apple emphasizes its efforts to maintain high labor standards in its supply chain, Foxconn remains a stark reminder that the devices we use every day come with a hidden price, one paid by workers subjected to exhausting hours, harsh treatment, and an environment where even suicide has become a normalized response to the crushing pressure. As Xu chillingly put it wouldn't be Foxconn without people dying. Unfortunately, it doesn't just stop with human misery. In fact, the environmental toll of producing these devices is equally staggering. Apple reports that 70% of its carbon emissions come from manufacturing, with the production of iPhones in 2022 alone generating a whopping 17 megatons of CO2. But the damage begins even before assembly. Mining essential materials like cobalt and lithium has devastating impacts on both the environment and local communities. For example, producing just 1 ton of lithium requires 2.2 million liters of water, often depriving nearby homes and farms of crucial water resources. The environmental and human costs don't stop there, though, either. The growing issue of e-waste is exacerbated by practices that subtly encourage users to replace devices rather than repair them. Apple's decision to make iPhones difficult to repair without visiting an Apple store or authorized repair center has pushed many users to simply discard and replace their devices. Additionally, costly repair prices, such as $379 for a screen replacement or up to $549 for a cracked back glass, make upgrading more appealing than fixing. Apple's shift to shipping iPhones without chargers, under the guise of reducing carbon emissions, has also raised concerns. While the company claims this move allows for more efficient shipping and reduces carbon emissions by 2 million metric tons, the switch from a Lightning to a USB-C cable left many users needing to buy new chargers, which may have only added to the growing e-waste problem. Apple has made bold claims about its environmental efforts, using carbon credits to offset its impact and setting ambitious sustainability goals. By 2020, the company achieved carbon neutrality for its corporate operations and pledged to extend this across its entire supply chain by 2030. Apple has also invested in green energy projects, spending $4.7 billion in green bonds and working with 110 of its global manufacturing partners to transition to renewable energy. However, critics question the effectiveness of carbon credits, suggesting they might not deliver on the promised reduction in emissions. Despite Apple's efforts to present itself as a leader in sustainability, accusations of greenwashing persist. In one case, a recycling contractor, GEEP Canada, was sued by Apple after recycling over 100,000 iPhones marked for disposal. This incident has cast doubt on Apple's recycling practices and raised concerns about whether the company prioritizes environmental responsibility or profits. Although Apple has made strides in using recycled materials and clean energy, the question remains, is the company's eco-friendly image more about perception than reality? So there we have it. From the moment your phone's journey begins in the conflict-ridden mines of the Congo, where children risk their lives to extract essential minerals, to its assembly in massive factories like Foxconn in China, where grueling conditions push workers to the brink, each stage of its production carries a hidden cost. Then, even after you've discarded it to buy the latest iPhone model, the environmental impact continues as e-waste piles up, poisoning ecosystems and communities. The sleek device in your pocket may seem like a marvel of modern technology, but beneath the surface lies a trail of exploitation, human suffering, and environmental destruction. So, the next time you pick up your phone, remember, its real price is paid in more than just dollars. It's paid in lives, labor, and the health of our planet. So, the next time you use your iPhone to voice concerns about human rights or climate change, take the red pill and think about this. You're not just an advocate, you're also complicit in the very issues you condemn.